Now that you've had a chance to get suited up and get a brief overview of what it's like to get started on your shift, getting into the squad, doing a little bit of patrol, we've got some time to go over some of the questions here. My profession, obviously, like I mentioned before, cop, police officer, but I like to consider myself a peace officer for the city of Fergus Falls, Minnesota. Before this, I was actually in the Army Infantry, though, active duty, stationed at Fort Myer, Virginia, in Fort McNair, Washington, D.C. The Old Guard, or the Honor Guard, is commonly known for, a lot of people know it with the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, is a branch company that operates with us in our units. Mostly did a lot of funeral missions there at Arlington National Cemetery. Flew in Blackhawks to Dover, Delaware to pick up a lot of our brothers and sisters coming back from overseas. And also a lot of ceremonies and presidential and foreign dignitary events. After my active duty military service was done, I joined the Washington, D.C. Metropolitan Police Department and attended their academy out there. Due to my military background, helped with me getting accepted out there. Attended an 11-month academy learning DC code and law. DC is a little different, being it's kind of our nation's capital. There's quite a bit of different law enforcement and agencies that have jurisdiction out there, to include a lot of federal agencies and local agencies as well. Did that for a bit, and I had no real connection out there in the community sense. Me and my wife moved to the Fergus Falls area, where I applied to be a cop here. So with the question of what education is required, my journey is a little bit different than the normal people in the police field. Most have to attend a college and criminal justice degree, and they'll do skills here in Minnesota. But for me, since I had a military background and also with the DC police experience, for being a cop here in Minnesota, I took what was called a reciprocity test. And essentially, I just took a test on the laws of Minnesota to make sure that I could get post-board certified, meaning that I knew the laws of Minnesota with a passing grade, and that I'm certified to be a licensed peace officer here in the state of Minnesota, which I did pass. And then I went through background and interview process with the city of Fergus Falls. So education, for me, it was a little bit different. Mine was more life experience with my education. But education needed, for the most part, is a criminal justice or a schooling in law enforcement of some sort of background in most departments around here anyways. Also, talk about profession. I'm actually sitting, I don't know if the camera caught that, out in front of Augustana Lutheran Church, and a little over 2 weeks ago actually ended up ministering here. So that is something I do on this as well, minister and preach to individuals in church. A lot of times mostly on the street, though. I do a lot of baptisms and funerals and weddings for individuals and people, whether they come up to me or I know them. So that is something else that I am involved in here. What does a normal workday look like for me? There is no normal. We kind of tied down to whatever comes out over the radio. Whoever calls in to 911 or is calling for assistance, we're kind of whatever comes in day to day. I mean, it could be medicals, or it could be people fighting or need help. So there's no normal. We like to, if we get a chance, start out the day while it's still light out, walking downtown and checking the businesses, talking with the business owners, interacting with the people whenever we get a chance. That kind of goes, again, depending if no one else is calling for help. Obviously, we need to respond to emergencies, whether it's police related, we're responding. If it's fire related, we're responding. If it's medical related, we're responding to any types of emergencies in town. And the big part with responding to all those is just working in a community that really appreciates its law enforcement, and we really appreciate the community and their support. So it makes doing extra and going above and beyond for the community very easy to do for us when we like to see the safety of boys and girls, children, adults, men and women, just so that everyone can get along and live their life in peace and in freedom here. What is the best part about my job? I think I kind of already briefly touched on it already, but just how the community supports us here, just being able to give back to the community and serve them, and being able to interact with the community and especially the children and kids, just brightening days and putting smiles on people's face, whether it's just dropping by events or gatherings while on patrol and seeing kids outside playing basketball or football or baseball and just stopping by and playing with them really means a lot to the kids and parents, you can tell. And even just seeing birthday parties and maybe playing the birthday song on the loudspeaker and just seeing the happiness and joy it brings is probably one of the best parts of my job that I feel. Also, we get called, people call 911. It's not the highlight of their day. They're usually at a down period in their day. That's the reason why 911 is getting called. And when we show up there after everything's under control, being able to speak to all parties and being able to diffuse the situation and turning something that was a big negative into something positive and changing the outlook of people and getting them kind of on the right step to positivity and happiness of maybe the direction that they weren't heading, and that you kind of got them shifted in the right direction, and being able to change people's lives in that matter, and knowing that hopefully that your interaction with them was meant to be to get them at a point in their life to where they're going to be headed towards the better things going forward. The biggest challenge, I'd say the biggest challenge is probably getting enough rest, just staying fresh with the hours that we work on the job, and then also any other activities involved in within the community, volunteering with other things. And then also with the family life, you want to make sure that you're spending time with family and getting to your kids' activities, and then any other friends as well, especially trying to stay in touch with people. The biggest challenge is definitely just making sure to have enough rest in between your shifts, because you want to be fresh when you're coming to work. You don't want to be slagging and kind of drowsy, because you need to be on top of your game mentally and physically, and rest is a big important part of that, along with nutrition and physicalness. How has the coronavirus impacted my workday now? Well, we still respond to calls the same. How has the coronavirus impacted my work? We still respond to calls because we have to, as being a public servant, but now we've been issued different gear that we must wear when we respond to certain calls. We have our masks that we got, different types of masks, just to make sure, we're goggles, and also in our cars, their hand sanitizer. We keep that anyway, so that's not really a big change. We come in contact with a lot of different substances, so we always would keep hand sanitizer with us anyways. But the biggest thing is just the extra personal protective equipment that we wear, mostly with the mask and the goggles, and then also interacting with the public and people, and doing business checks on foot and in person have been a little bit more limited as we